I mean? Because I trust that
Yeah.
you know
How
what
old are
you're
you,
talking
man?
about. And it's rare to find that. Like most of the guys I see in college, especially, they don't
Yeah.
know fucking nothing about the market. Like
Oh,
most of the guys, even older, like your age,
yeah.
don't know shit about the market
Right.
either. So
Yeah.
it's like it's rare, man. You know.
No, this is real business. How old are you?
I'm 19, bro.
No,
I'm
well, you
19.
got a great fucking head on. So what I did my whole life, people don't realize is that I so so like there's a saying right there once was an owl that lived in an oak. The more he heard, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why can't we all be like that wise old bird? And what it was simply this: the guy who's the smartest guy in the room is the guy who knows he doesn't have all the information.
Right.
So he
Right.
sits around and just listens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if I hear somebody telling me something that I already know, I would listen to see how they explained it because I needed to understand why they knew or how they were thinking of how they got to that information because that also taught me of how they learn, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
if you know how people learn or how they get their information, then you know what resources to use to fucking, as a guide to what's going to happen. Right? So when I met people, I'd be like, "So how'd you do that? How'd you build that business?" So every business that I ever consulted for, they would explain to me like how they fucking started. Even fucking Samsung. Like Samsung used to build ships.
No, I had no idea.
Bro, but they're not a TV company. They used to build ships. But I was able to like, just by being in the field, even when I was doing promotions, like club promotions and events, I would just talk to fucking bankers, businessmen. I mean, how'd you build that? I was just curious on how you made every fucking thing because I needed to, like, what made everything make money, right? That's all I wanted to know is how's this shit work, right? And that's why I say when you sitting there going, I just listen to people. I try to find all the like that's where everyone. That's the difference between being wealthy and being the guy who doesn't understand how to get there. You got to know that you have to figure out that you don't have to reinvent a fucking wheel. There's wheels all over the fucking place. Just push it. Figure out what the fuck someone did or how they're thinking, and then talk to other people who are doing things that other people aren't doing. And eventually you'll get to a point where you realize like, oh, if I took this guy's philosophy
Mm-hmm.
and then plugged it into this guy's business, man, that would make a killing. So what I was doing was I was just listening to all this shit and people used to sit there like like when I was like 20, 21, I was in marketing, I was building companies and guys used to be like, man, you just build like crazy fucking systems, right? And I would design and build things to help people do what I need them to do. Like the first thing was understanding the psychology of a customer, right? How to address somebody when they're first walking into a store. Everyone, when you walk in a store, it's funny. Everyone goes, hey, how's it going? And I used to sit there and I let all these companies in the world say the same line because everyone copies off everyone. Nobody's actually intelligent enough to build shit. And every
DC.
yeah,
I used to sell cars, and people used to fucking make fun of me, and they thought it was the corniest fucking line, and I was good as fucking selling cars. And every time I would walk up to somebody, they would always put balloons on all the fucking cars every morning, right?
yeah,
So I'd walk up to them before I'd shake their hand, not fucking, hey, how you doing?
right,
Fucking just look at them with my hand out. Are you here for the big sale?
yeah,
Fucking, all of a sudden people are like, oh, there's a sale today? I'm like, yeah, don't you see the
exactly,
balloons? So it just created that fucking atmosphere like, oh, fuck, we came on the right day. Everything's on sale. Fuck yeah.
exactly.
And that's how we started.
That's
People
how
like,
you
that's
do
the
it.
dumbest line. I'm like, you can think whatever the fuck you want.
You have to you have to realize when you ask somebody, right? How's your fucking hey? Or when they walk in, like, hey, how's your day? How's it going? Right, dude. You people live in real life. How's it going? It's fucking Tuesday at 2 o'clock. I'm busting my ass, and now I got to shop and spend money I don't have to go home and do something I don't want to do just to get the fuck up tomorrow to go to a job I hate.
So
I'm out.
people
It's
wouldn't
the
even
mentality.
understand, but there would be different salesmen. They'd let fucking people fucking run them around the fucking lot and test drive fucking cars. And who knows, man? These people could have shit credit or fucking no money. So I would be like, "Are you here for the big sale?" Shake their hand. Great. Follow me. Bring them inside. Set them the fuck down.
Get them qualified.
And then be like, "All right, what are we looking for today?" And I'm just gonna ask you straight up, "How's the credit?" And you can read people immediately.
Yeah, how they
like,
react.
"Oh, my credit's fucking fine." Or it's like, "Eh." Well, the minute you sense a little fucking hesitant, hey, why don't we just do a fucking credit app and see what you qualify for?
Right. Why waste time?
Either you can put them in a car, you know what kind of car you can put them in, or they can't buy shit. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. You fucking move on to the next customer or sell them the car and fucking wash your hands. Let's go.
And see, right there.
Laughed at my strategy. That was my strategy.
Yeah, but you didn't waste time.
You motherfucker wasted 4 or 6 hours and get fucking paid a dime. I'm fucking.
Yeah, you're good. You're finding customers.
If they can, I'm turning them, sending them to the door. Go call your grandma, your brother, your uncle. See, you get a cosign, get some money down, fucking move on.
That's what. See, the one thing. And then is this your uncle? Is that your nephew that you're bringing? Yeah. See, your uncle, he's like, he thinks like very directly, right? Like when I was talking to him, that's the only reason I did the one-on-one is because he's like, so it's all thought processes, right?
What he wants, he's gonna get it.
Yeah, and what he does.
Figure out a way to get it.
Yeah, and all he did was he realized that when he was selling cars, he knew that if someone couldn't get approved, he couldn't sell a car. So he knew he didn't want to talk to those people because he was only there to sell a car. So in his brain, he came up with like, okay, I just need to find the people with credit, right? Which is what it sounds stupid. It sounds stupid that like everyone listening will be like, yeah, that's what you should do. That's what 97% of people don't do. Like they all test drive, they talk to people, they do the schmoozy schmooze, they make a friend, and then they find out they can't get approved. Because they're just basically saying, well, they're at the car lot, they should have credit. But they're all assuming, right? It's all hopium that they're assuming that everyone understands how cars work, how you need credit. I mean, nowadays, we have that. Everyone knows. That's why they have all these apps that you can go to get pre-approved. Because most people didn't fucking know you had to get pre-approved to get a car. But now they have all these apps that are like, oh, that was brilliant. Now you can get pre-approved and then go in.
Still happens, though. I bet you.
Oh, yeah, tons. But that's the point is like when you talk to people, you start to realize like, how to, see things in a different way, right? So that's why when you were like right now, you just had the ding ding moment where you were like, oh, so this is where, you can take, what the systems are, how they're going to react. Yeah, 50% of it is knowing what the game is. The other 50% is how to find out when the game is being played. And that's what we did different with the Making Trading Easy. So at first I taught everyone how to trade, which was based on what everyone was teaching. And then once I was getting through that, I realized that, at the end of the day, all this other shit that people are teaching, candles, patterns, bull flags, and all that crap, none of that matters. The only thing that matters was the moment the moment the trade became live, the moment the money found its way. And then once I knew how to locate the money, then I found strategies inside the money of when something happens, it creates a cause and effect. When the 5-minute moon line bends up, the cause is a 0.5% move 70% of the time, right? And the effect is if I do a 60x on that move, that means I make 30% profit every single time this happens, 7 out of 10. Now, if I'm winning 7 out of 10, this is where systematic comes in. I know that I'm going to bring in and say, okay, I'm going to make 210% on this move. But 3 out of 10, I have a stop loss of 25. I'm going to lose 75%, right? And we'll just say, we'll just fucking round it up and say, lose 70, win 200. That means that if I do this 10 times, I'm up 130%. 30% for my fees, 100% means I double my bag. So if I had $1,000 and I made this trade 10 times, I'm up $1,000. Now, if I wanted to make more money, and this is where I'm going to fucking blow your mind, is that most people decide to make more money, they think like this. They say, you know what? I know that this trade has done 50 and 60% many times. They don't know how many, but they've seen it happen where it's gone from 30 to 60 to 130, sometimes 200%. And they say, I'm going to hold this trade until it hits instead of 30%, I'm going to 60. I'm going to double up my money. And what happens is they don't know that the law of average doesn't work that way. And it goes up 40% and they think they're fucking on fire. And then it drops down to 20 and then it goes the other way and becomes a short. So these 7 times
Right,
they should, yeah, the
I don't
7,
mean to cut you off,
go ahead.
So you're saying it's very important to work with a system, like give yourself parameters.
Yeah.
Work within this exact system.
You
if
have to
wanna be
work,
profitable.
yeah, you have to work within the law of average. You ever heard of the law of average?
Yeah, it's, I mean,
Yeah.
I know what an average is. I don't
Yeah.
think it is.
Yeah, the law of average is just basically like, it's like when you flip a coin over, how many times will be heads, how many times will be tails.
Gotcha, yeah.
And if you keep doing it 100 times and you do it another 100 times and you write down that when you flip a coin, because everyone's different, that it'll be 60 times out of 100 is my average, right? So if you were a betting man and someone said, bet your life on this coin flip, and you know that 60% of the time it's heads, when you flip it, you better pick heads. Even though it's a fucking coin flip. But, so what you have to have is, the only way to be successful is to do something, right? You ever heard of the term like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? So, yeah, when you take that and you put it in a theory of when you see something do something and it gives you a cause and then gives you an effect, and it's the same shit over and over on a higher, like a percent. It doesn't have to be 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. It could be 5 out of 10. It doesn't really matter. If I knew that my system, right, and this would be a shitty system, and this is what most people trade. Most people win 4 out of 10 trades, right? Some people win 3 out of 10. If my system or my strategy of the 5-minute moonline only won 4 out of 10, and the average win moved 0.5%, right? And the rest of it was losses. What I would have to do is I would have to figure out a mathematical equation for the leverage on the 4 wins to have enough wins to make up for the losses. So if I only...
So would you move your stop loss at that point?
Yeah. You got. So here's how I would do it. So let's say I was a shitty trader, right? This is normal retail investors, right? So let's say you have I can tell right now we're going to have a lot of conversations. So.
Oh yeah. I will, dude. This is great. Man.
Yeah, and this is what I wanted to come across, because what I want to do is, and what are you studying in college?
Finance. I'm in finance.
Oh, I fucking love it. This is perfect because I'm going to start a YouTube channel, right? And I'm going to have you come on, man. You're exactly who I'm looking for. So what I wanted to do was kind of go over like people's philosophies and strategies on the YouTube channel to cover how they trade, and then give them a mathematical equation that solved their problem, right? Without really anything else. So let's say a normal trader, right, goes out and he wins 4 out of 10 trades, which is, if most people were tracking their wins and losses, they would know that they win 4 out of 10. That's the average, okay? Now, based on that, you'd have to figure out, like, if you had a system, like a strategy of how you enter a trade, when you enter a trade, and you repeated the same steps. Like, when this happens, I do this. Or let's just say support and resistance. So let's say that you use Fibonacci's and you enter on a particular line every single time. Let's say you're using time frames, right? So let's say you're using the time frame and you're like, all right, I'm going to use a 4-hour time frame, and I'm going to enter on the 0236 line every time, and I'm going to target the 786 or the 1.14 line, whatever. And you did that every time, and you won 4 out of 10 of your trades. And when you win, the average move, let's say, is 30%, right? And when you lose, right, you have, or say 50%. And when you lose, you get liquidated, because that's what most traders. This is what blew my fucking mind, is people used to get like liquidated. I'm like, all right, so here's a normal trader, and so this is what fucked me up. Is say you have $1,000, and you put $1,000 and you do a trade, and normally this is why people say you need a lot of money to do trading, because they start you off and they say, okay, you need 10 grand. You go, 10 grand, right? Because you're going to do 10 trades, and we're going to put $1,000 on the 0236 line, and we're going to target the 786 because that's normally where a run from the 236 will go to on average. That's the 786 is the hardest line to break. That's why it's the hardest resistance. But most of the time, it'll hit it 2 or 3 times before it comes back down and then breaks out. So that's our target, and that'll give us 50% on our $1,000. And you're like, oh, okay, so I'll make $500. Like, yeah, you're going to make $500, 4 times. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, so that's $2,000, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. Now, based on that, during this time, 2 of these trades will actually continue to run, and they'll be breakout trades. And you're like, oh, okay, cool, breakout trades. And you're like, yeah, these are going to run to the 2.618 line, right? And you're like, now we're actually going to make 300% on these trades. And you're like, oh, shit. So you start calculating in your mind. You're like, all right, so 2 of the trades, I'm going to get at least, on average, 600%. So my 1,000 will be 3,000. And now I'm up 6,000 on these 2 trades. And if the other 2 trades do the basic, 1,000, so now I'm up 7,000. So you think in your mind, you're like 7,000, 8,000. You're like, damn, I'm up some cash. All right. And you're like, here's the best part. So you're up 7,000, 8,000, right? Minimum 7, but mostly 8 to 9,000. You're like, okay. Now you are going to lose 6 of your 10 trades. And you go, okay, so I'm going to lose 60%, and this is how they sell it to you. This is the greatest thing I've ever heard. Actually, I was cracking the fuck up. They're like, here's the best part. I remember this guy telling me this. A lot of traders tell me this, and I used to sit there, and every time I used to be like, wow, this really must be fucking hard to not understand what the fuck you're saying. They say, here's the best part, VC. We have a 60% loss rate, but we still make money. And they were so excited about that because philosophy-wise, it was like, who loses 60% of the time but still successful? So it was a win, right? So they were like, here's the thing. We're going to lose $6,000. But on the other 4 trades, we average 8 to 10,000. And I'm like, so they're like, so the worst case scenario, after 10 trades, we make $2,000. But in a good market, we can make 6. And they're like, but no matter what, we're going to make 2,000 every 10 trades. So we'll make 10 trades this week. You're going to make $2,000. Okay, that's $8,000 a month. That's $96,000 a year. I just showed you how to make $100,000 VC, and I was like, man, you're brilliant. And I shook their. And I would always shake their hands, and I'd be like, let me think about this. And I was like, I think I might have an ideal. And I used to walk out of those one-on-one. I used to crack the fuck up, like they really believe they're onto something. And to be honest with you, they were.
They're making money, right?
How many people? Right. How many people can make $100,000 a year with a $10,000 investment? And lose 60% of the time. Because remember, and I always say this, I go, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you are right. They figured out how to take, and this is brilliant, this is what I gave them credit for. Most traders figured out the ones that are successful, that's why 95% of them are successful and 5% are not successful, they lose, and 5% win. Because the 5% that win are actually smart enough to figure out how to make their terrible system work, which everyone does. Everyone buys low, sell high. They all buy supports and sell resistance. And 5% of all traders were smart enough to figure out a strategy that allowed them to make 6 figures with a 60% loss rate. And they're intelligent. They're smart. Because 95% of people couldn't.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, it's like it's a breakthrough. It's fucking brilliant. Now what I did was I went through their system and I said, well, here's all the flaws. And then I started building trading styles, and I would say, hey, listen, let me show you something. And I gave them a rule, right? And I would say, don't enter this trade until this happens. I didn't tell them why. I just gave them a rule. And I said, this will get rid of 50% of your losses. And they're like, huh? I said, so imagine that you eliminate out of 10 trades, you replace half of those 6 trades, 3 of them, with winning trades that are going to make 500 to 1,000 bucks, right? Let's just say 500. Now you're going to make an extra $1,500, but more importantly, you're not going to lose 3,000. So you are up $4,500. So now I have doubled your income and now taught you how to make $200,000 a year. And I've done nothing to change how you trade, just when you trade. And they were like, okay, I'll try it. And man, dude, they came back, and every fucking trade I've ever taught was like, bro, I love you so much. Thank you. You changed my life. And I used to charge 25 grand to listen to people's strategies and then just simply fix their mistakes. Not how they traded, not the system that every schmuck trades, 95% of people lose on, but how to win, and then take the 5% that win and show them how to get rid of half of their mistakes. Right? Did nothing else. Made a good living on that shit. And then I was sitting around and I was like, man, we can do better. You know, and that's when I started building a system 5 years ago. I was like, you know what? Crypto's the perfect space to really fucking hone in on this, because I was so blown away that a guy in Africa could have $5, because they make $10 a week, but he could take $5 and turn it into thousands of dollars in a year, which is literally, he's a millionaire. And I was like, how do I get a guy with $5 to become wealthy? Right? That's all I was thinking about. Like, that's the system I want to create. I want to create a system that changes third world people's lives. And I did. And I was like, this is how easy it is to trade. So that's why if you go through my early academies, I had a trading academy, right? So at first I had Crypto University, which was all traders. People, all they did was trade, call out trades. And then I would teach them to eliminate half of their fucking bad trades. And then they would post their trades and people would trade with them and then make a lot of fucking money. I had guys making 6, 7, guys were making a lot of money. But it was like, what happened was, it was only 40 to 60% of the people would make money. And I was like, I was like, we need to do better. So then I started so Crypto University, then I created Crypto Academy, right? And the academy was, I got rid of all the bad trades and I just did high-end trades, and I used high leverage to execute very easily, less risk, more money. But what happened was that it would be the dumbest conversations. So I would create a trade, and you would go into a trade and you would put like 70x leverage, 80x leverage. And your entire goal was to make 60% on this trade with $1,000, and repeat this same fucking trade. You could do it like probably about 40 times a day, but based on normal life, if you're just kind of popping in and out, you could do it at least 5 times a day. So in 2 days, 10 rips at it, you could sit there and go, okay, I have $1,000, here's $600, I can do this 10 times a week, I can make $6,000 a week. Here's the combos that I would have from it, because people would post losses. Like the other day, you see Springer posted a loss, right? And I was like, bro, I was like, one of the things is that we don't, once we're in a trade, we're in a fucking trade, right? You have to train yourself to if you get into a trade and you have to get out of the trade before it's stop loss or anything, well, that's, because you had a feeling or you didn't understand, then you should have never got in that trade. That's what I was trying to get to make him understand, is that why are we making trades that we're not sure of?
Bro, this is the perfect scenario. Like, Nikki's been struggling, but she would do dumb shit. I would give her a straight up signal. Like, when I was in Vegas, I told her to trade 40x, 30% stop loss. I was at 69x. I murdered the trade. She
right.
texted me and she's like, I got stopped out. And I'm like,
what was your stop loss?
Possible. We have the identical entry. I'm double your fucking leverage.
Right.
I did everything you said. I'm like, no, you didn't. Like, something, well, I saw VC where he had his stop loss, so I put it there. And I'm like, he's a systems trader.
Right.
His stop loss is going to be the percentage of but I was like, okay, stop.
But see, this is
everything I said. You took my signal and then you
changed it.
looked at BC's post, didn't pay attention to his entry. Now I don't even understand how he's looking at the trade and decided to put his stop loss in. You got popped.
Right,
So
and
you
that
cost yourself whatever.
yeah.
For
Well,
not
that's
saying
it's
coaching guy
it's
to
a
do it or whatever,
system. It's a system, right? People don't understand different leverages.
Well, how is how do you and Chad, like, I mean, how do you differ in how you trade? Like, because he was just telling me his stop loss was different than yours. Like, why would his?
Well, that would be his
We had
entries.
different entry points.
Different entries.
Like, I had the same percentage, but I mean, you'll see. We'll post entries.
Yeah.
The greediest entry, and I was just patient. Like, you can watch the fib levels.
So
and I got the greediest entry. He got in a little bit sooner, but
here's
different leverage,
yeah, different
like, you know
leverages.
what I mean? It's just a lot of variables.
Is the stop loss always just a percentage of the entry?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just based on a different entry.
Yeah.
then, right?
What's also based on different leverage, right?
Oh, so because your stop changes depending on. Oh, right. You
Right.
explained that
So
earlier.
right. So here's the philosophy behind how to use leverage. Okay. People don't see. People use leverage because they think it's how to increase profits, right? And it's actually not what it's for. Leverage is used to be more patient. It's the opposite of what people actually do. So the reason why you use leverage is this. Let's say that you have a support area, right? And you're waiting for it to break above support, retest, and then you're going to try to buy the retest area, and then you're going to hope that it runs, right? Well, I know that the very first move that anything happens is just a test of the market to see whether or not people are buying. So after a retest, a push up and a retest, the next thing that I'm looking for is a push up to confirm the breakout. See, if I'm trading double safe and I want to win every fucking time, I wait for the next move to show me more support, and that we're basically like using higher time frames. So on the next move that pops up and it comes back, now I enter. Now, if you entered earlier, which you should be entering as a normal trader, you should be entering a trade with a 20x, 30x leverage, looking for the greediest entry, right? Especially if you're trading support and resistance, because you need to have X amount of percentage, like you need a 2% move against you in order to survive, right? And I'll explain that in a second. So if I'm doing a 30x leverage and I'm entering on a pullback or retest, and then the lower side, like the resistance and the support area is actually 1% lower than that, even if it falls all the way back down to the lower support, it's only 1%, which means I'll only go 30% negative, so my stop loss is 45. But by using a low leverage of 30, I can take that risk because I'm low leverage. Where what your uncle does is he works on waiting for everything to line up in confirmations, and when he sees that it has all the momentum, he goes 60-70% because he's been waiting for the move to become more solidified. You see what I'm saying?
So you're playing an earlier move, like you're.
Yeah.
The MTE system, he's chasing 30%, and you'll see I'm posting 50 to 100%. Not saying BC can't do that, but I'm just way more patient.
He's more patient because, so you got to remember, your uncle is a trader, where everyone who's coming to make money in the Making Trading Easy system, they're not. They're not watching the chart. They're not watching every move. So in order to lower their risk, I show them to use lower leverage at different levels. So that way, even if they're wrong, it helps protect them from their mistakes until they learn what your uncle's trying to teach them, which is how to see the signals, right? So that's why you always see me say, if you're a new guy, you should be trading 20x, because more than likely, if you're at least following your uncle's signals in the Discord, if you're doing 20x and you get in at the wrong time, even if it pulls back, you're still going to survive, and then it's going to run. So if you look at our calls, we know it's going to run. Sometimes there's a bigger pullback than normal because you got in before the money actually showed up, and they try to liquidate people or get a better entry by pulling out liquidity and doing a liquidity grab. But if you're 20x, you survive it anyways because you had 4% where you could, 3% that you could fuck off. and that percentages are massive. Like normally that's going to go through 3 to 4 support lines, and we're not going to fall 3 or 4 support lines. We're going to average 2 to 3. So if your stop loss is on the 4th support line, even if you're in a way wrong position, you're going to survive it, and then it's going to run eventually. You see what I'm saying? That's why we always say use 20x for the new guys, because what we're doing is we're limiting your risk, giving you a better chance of success, even though you don't know how to enter yet, and then you still end up with the trade, which is what we have a 45-minute trade and a 4-hour student trade. So when those trades are lining up, it's going to get there. It could take 8 hours, but it'll get there. Where your uncle, his brain is like, he starts analyzing everything that the system's doing, and then he finds the sweet spot. And once he knows where the sweet spot is, he starts. That's what we were building, was his own trade. His trade was the 45 because it's the master trade. It was so funny. It's the trade that I teach traders how to trade because it's the sweet spot. It's the early move and the long move at the same time. So that way you get in early, you don't feel like you gave up space. And then if it breaks out and runs, you're like, that's what I wanted it to do. So you feel fucking good either way. But that's where he can go with higher leverage, because he's learning that when the sweet spot all lines up, his trades are doing his 7 out of 10 by waiting for these things to happen. But he's at a level where he's not getting the wicks or the pullbacks. So he can go 60, 70% leverage because he's already been patient enough to avoid the wicks. And now when he moves, right, this is what I say, leverage is for patience. He didn't have to get in early and take a 20 or 30x position with longer periods and more risk. He waited for a sweet spot, and then once he had that lined up, he can go 70 because he's confident, because he's seen this fucking move pay out 8 out of 10 fucking times. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's got more experience, so that's kind of the reason.
Well, yeah, no, what he's doing is he's taking the system, and then what he does is, the system is made for him, like it's for traders. But in order for the system to actually work for everyone, that's why I got rid of the academy. The academy teaches what he's doing right now, but
so
they can't think like that. What happened?
So you made you have multiple versions, is what you're saying? Like
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're a trader,
Different strategy. It's going to be the same rules, but I mean,
yeah.
you got to get something that makes sense to everybody.
Well, you got to do something that protects people from doing dumb shit, right? You cannot do
You're protecting people, though. You know what I mean? Like you're not like
you can't do a 70x leverage if you don't know how to fucking enter, right? And if you don't know, if you don't know how to let the 2-minute pull back, let the 5-minute RSI hit, there's like 3 or 4 steps.
I'm on right now, and I just entered a 70 long because the 2 reset. I'm up 35%. It's a fucking hammer. I'm up $1,000 right now as we're talking.
Yeah, I'm up 61% on it. Are you talking about Solana?
Yes, sir.
You guys are both just doing it. You're probably not even barely thinking about it. You just got it systemed up right.
Yeah, we're well, because the you got to realize, like, so the system is actually built for your uncle. He's a trader, right? But what I realize is that system is a trader system. Okay, when you're a trader, you once you find the sweet spot here, I'm up 62% on that. I'll send you a text. But once you find a sweet spot, you can fucking you know what you're seeing because you're staring at fucking charts, right? So once I show you how to look at the chart and then use the indicator to confirm what you see, right? Now your uncle, instead of being like every other trader where he's watching support and resistance and he has to have, basically he's going off emotions or guts, and he's like, man, this looks like it's going to run. Now he has an indicator that says, yeah, motherfucker, you're right. So instead of doing 30 or 40, he can do 70 because now he knows he's right.
So I explained in that trade that I did 193% that I posted earlier, and I told them I was at 70 leverage, and they're like, well, how'd you do that? And I go, well, just know that I hit 69% ROI, and I got down to 29% ROI, but I fucking knew from all the indicators in the charts, and I fucking doubled my fucking margin and knocked that motherfucker out of the park. But I told him the safest trade would have been pulling profit at 69%, and then stacking the deck when I got the pullback in the dip and confirmed. But the charts, the fucking green moon's 2 hour, 1 hour, 45, 30.
Yeah.
And the 2-minute dip was massive, and I'm like, oh, I'm fucking holding. I don't give a fuck. I know we're going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're starting to learn the moons are where you pump.
Yeah.
See, once you see your uncle's like, so this is how I know. So the reason why, so the academy was to teach guys like your uncle to fucking maximize their profits. But people can't think like him. They can't see it. There's too many moving parts. So what I did was I made the MTE system, which is where I take all those moving parts and I make it one part. I make it simple trade, can't fuck it up, leverage that you can't fuck up, it gives you a higher percent. I made everything to where making trading easy, that's the name of the motherfucker, is done easy. Now guys like your uncle come in and they're in a candy store because the system's designed for how they want to trade. I just don't market that anymore because the reality is only 40 to 60% of the people that come here can do what he's doing. The other people will never look at charts like that. It's going to take them, they have to actually dedicate time and look at fucking charts. You know, they're not sitting around with fucking 3 screens open, watching every little move, looking at every moon. They're not calculating the move. They're not seeing it all the way.
He's laughing because I'm sitting there looking at fucking 3 screens and I got fucking BTC on my big screen watching that fucker pump too.
Yeah, so like your uncle's watching the entire system and then he's watching Bitcoin as confirmation on top of his confirmation.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. People who work every day, have the kids, the family, the dogs, and they're like, I'm too tired, I can't do this, I'm on the rock. I mean, they're all sitting around, like some of the guys are like in lunch breaks, they're on their fucking cell phone. You know, they don't have the luxury right now to do what your uncle's doing, but they'll get there in a year or two when they actually, you know, get through the basics. So what making trading easy is creating a system that any mom and pop can do without any of the knowledge of a guy like your uncle or the effort that he puts in, make the same trades and still be successful, but using leverage and tools to protect their entries, right? And once they learn every time they enter and giving them rules like, you know, to get a better, that's why I do videos. I'm doing videos right now, like how to just improve your wins, right? And how you do that is you simply enter better. So for instance, let's say that you make 10 trades, right? And I'm teaching everyone, you'll see all my TikToks are about doing 10 trade reviews. Do 10 trades every time you enter based on whatever your Fibonacci line is, right? And it could just be your time frame. Let's say you're using a 15-minute, maybe a 1 hour time frame, maybe even a 4. And you're saying that when it hits this line, I'm entering and I'm taking profit here, right? Now, what I want you to do is look at how many times on the 10 trades that you did that it went down to the next support line, right? Because you don't want to be greedy on the trade when it's running because you can't predict how much people will buy or when people are going to fucking sell. But what you can do is you can get greedy on your entry. So if you can move your entry down another 2 or 3%, well, if you're doing a 10x, that means you just made 20 or 30 extra percent. So now, if you looked at those 10 trades and you realize that 7 of the 10 or 5 of the 10 actually went down. So let's say that, so this is all basically systematic. So let's say you make 10 trades and you're averaging 30% on your trades and you're a decent trader and you win 6 out of 10, right? And you're like, damn, I win 6 out of 10. I'm better than most. And I'm getting 30% on all my wins, and my stop losses are 10%. So I'm only losing 40% on my 4 losses, but I'm winning 30%, so I'm 180 on my normal. So which means I'm up 120% at the end of the day, which means I double my bag, right? And then I come along and say, okay, take a look at your 6 wins, and you do a 10 trade review. And then you realize that on these 10 trades, there was a moment where you could have got greedier on 3 of the trades and could have went for an extra 30%, right? And then you say, okay. And what will happen is you say to yourself like, okay, if I went greedier on these 3 trades, I would have made an extra 30%, which means I would have doubled my normal profit on these 3 trades, which basically means those trades are worth 6 now, right? And then on your other 3 winning trades, you didn't trigger and they didn't happen. And you're like, well, but I missed 3 trades. But like, yeah, did you? Because now you won 3 out of 10 and you made the same amount of money. So now you can say to yourself, okay, how do I set my system up to where when these other trades didn't pull all the way back, how could have I got in those trades and still made my 30%, right? So now you start figuring out how to take advantage of that extra. But in reality is, if you're in less trades and they're worth the same amount of money, your risk is now down and your reward is up. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of times what you realize is the 4 trades that you lost probably didn't go down as far as those other 3. And now instead of losing 4 trades at 10% leverage, you didn't even get in 2 of those. Right? So you didn't get in three of the 6, but you also didn't get in 2 of the 4. So now we're up 60% on 3 trades. We're still making our 180%, but now we only lost 20% on the 2 losses. So now we made 160% versus 120.
Gotcha. So you can fine tune this pretty. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of ways you can do it.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, like, what is like you were talking about? So mom and pop can do this, like that method. Like, is how much less profitable is that compared to like what you and my uncle are doing?
It just matters how much money you got. It's just safer trades, and they don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
So
I'm
here,
just thinking even my parents to just.
So let's the reason why the system is designed to have where, let's say you're a hodler or somebody, right? So like this is where explaining to people you don't take risk on letting a trade run. You fine tune. So what we teach people is how to make 50% profit. If you can make 50% profit 8 out of 10 times, right? And you do this 3-4 times in a row, the 10 trade review, 10 trade, you are now a master of the 50%, which means if I told you that start setting your targets at 30%, that's almost half of what you normally do. You should be a god, right?
Okay.
So now we lower the target from 50 to 30, and let's say you're doing a $100 trade. Now you move up to a $1,000 trade, and you're taking 30%. So now your risk is half of normal, because you normally do 50%. Now you're doing 30. Most of the trades that you lost hit 35, 40%, but then went the other way and got stop lossed out at like 20%, 15, or even entry because you're moving your stop loss, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, you should probably win, 10 out of 10 trades, but we'll say 7 out of 10. Fuck it. And 7 out of 10 times you hit your 30% on your $1,000. And the other 3 times your stop loss was 25, you moved it to 15, even if you lost the 25%, at the end of the day, let's say 3 of those. So you're still winning your 60 to 90%. Now, if you want to make more money, if you do a trade and you do $1,000 and you take 30%, you make 300. But if you want to make, and you're doing, let's say, 10 of those trades a week, so you're making 3,000 a week, and you say to yourself, you know what, I want to make 6. Well, you don't push those trades for more percentages back up to 50. You simply take your $1,000 bag and double it, because now you're
Gotcha. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's limit risk, increased reward. If you want to make more, you make it a $3,000 bag, right? Now, if you make it a $3,000 bag to increase your return, you should actually look for 20% returns, right? And make it where you're even taking less risk because you're only looking for that 20%. That's still $600. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where everyone does it the other way. They increase the money and then want to go for 60%. And they take twice the loss.
Gotcha. So look, they're not. Yeah, I understand exactly. What you're
Yeah, it's kind of like it always. That's the conversation I've had a million fucking times.
We got a 2-minute pullback on Solana here. It
Yeah.
actually just happened. I think we're gonna pump back up.
And I'm just like, I always say, because the guys would tell me like, so they would post a loss, right? This is what I was talking about earlier. Guys would post a loss, and then I'd go back and I'd look at the trade, and I'd be like, how the fuck did you lose this trade? And then here's the story that I heard a million times. Okay, well, I got in VC, and so I had my 25% stop loss or 30, and my target was 60% like normal. I said, okay. I said, then, it got to 20%, because how we do it is this. When your trade hits 20%, whether it's a wick or whatever, you move your stop loss from 30 to 15 or 30 to 20, right? Just so that you're staying around 20% stop loss. And then when it breaks 35%, you then move your stop loss from 20 negative to entry point. So even if the trade goes bad at this point, you're basically just the cost of the trade, the fee. So now you're up 35%. When you get to 40%, you move your stop loss to plus 10. So no matter what happens, you're paying for you're breaking even. And your target is 60. So then when you get to 50, 55%, you can move your target up to 80%. And now that you're at 40, you move your stop loss to 25. So no matter what happens, you're walking away with 20%. Remember, if you're doing 2,000, 3,000, that's $600. All right?
Yeah.
Now, the guys would be like, so I moved it, the trade started happening, I can see moons are coming, I see all these things are happening, and you're like, great. You're like, perfect. And you're just watching it happen. And, you're sitting there and you're like, okay. And they're like, yeah. So then I was like, 80%. I moved my, I moved the stop loss up to, I was taking 30% no matter what happened. And I was all set up, and I moved my target to 80, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, okay. And like, yeah. And then it was like, it got to 70%. I was like, this thing looks like a runner. So I moved my take profit to 100% because I had my stop loss at 30. So no matter what, I'm at 30. And then since it was at 75, you know what? I'm going to take 50% profit. And I moved my stop loss to 50% profit. And then, it got up to like 89. And it pulled back a little, to 70. And then it was like, okay. And then it's 65. And then it bounced to 72, 75. So I was like, all right. And then it fell back down to 60, and I was like, you know what? It needs a little room to breathe. So I moved my stop loss back to take 30% profit. I said, okay. And I was like, yeah. And then that way it could bounce. But it started coming down, it started to reverse. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to let this thing breathe a little. But I know I have all these moons coming. So then I put my stop loss at, my entry point, saying, you know what? I'm going to give it room to come all the way back down and then run. And then I'm like, okay, so where are we at? They're like, well, right now we hit 85% profit, but now we're going backwards, but I'm letting it bounce. And what happened was I kept going, and then it kept pulling back, and then about an hour later, I was like, it's got to bounce here. So then I put my stop loss at negative 15, and I was like, all right, here we go. And, it just wicked down and wicked me out, negative 15.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I was like, okay, so you were up 82%? Yeah. What was the target? Oh, 50, 60. I said, okay. And you put your stop loss at 50% no matter what happens. Yeah. But then you decided to move it back to negative 15.
So you're in that scenario, the guy should have just left it at 50 is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like he tapped it off.
Right.
Not being so greedy, right?
Yeah, you're trading emotions. This is systematic. Yeah. You can't tell when people are going to sell it off. Right? The goal, the system wasn't designed to get you 300% profit. The system was designed to get you to your 50.
Yeah.
Like once you get your payback, once you get your target, how do you lose a winning trade? You didn't lose a winning trade. The trade won, you lost because you didn't follow the system. You didn't close the damn trade.
Yeah.
But in their mind, they lost the trade, and it's like so crazy. And I'm like, nah, you didn't lose. Like the trade won, you lost. That's why when people post, it's like, they'll post the losing trade, and I'll go look and be like, how'd you lose that trade? But then they're like, oh yeah, well, I won all these other trades. I'm like, well, don't post in the Discord your one fucking loss. Like, post all your trades. Like, that's the point. Like, we want to see wins and losses, because you need to be in your law of average. You need to win 7 out of 10. If you're not winning 7 out of 10, then you need to fix your entries. You need to fix your take profits. You need to fix, the targets. Like the goal isn't to be, 100% trader. The goal is to win 7 out of 10, and that percentage be high enough to cover. And your stop losses, if you want to be a good trader, you're losing your 25. But if you're moving your stop loss, those losses should only be, entry points or negative 10 or 15. So your win should be massive. You should be doing at least 100, 250 to 300% returns on every 10 trades. So that's like building the mentality of how to be a better trader without changing anything as far as that you're doing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the mentality of just doing the right thing. And then once you do the right thing, then we'll have data. Once we have data and you do the right thing, we'll have percentages and numbers. And once we have that, it's as simple as this. So let's say you do a 10 trade review, right? And out of your 10 trades, these are the three things you track, right? You track how low did it go before it went up, and how high did it go before it went back down to to pass my stop loss, right? And then what we do is, if I looked at that and you gave me out of your 10 trades, let's say that your 10 trades had an average pullback, and you trade the same thing. You do if you're doing $100, it's $100. If you're doing leverage, it's the same leverage. So if you're doing a 40x, it's 10 40x fucking trades in a row with a stop loss of 25 or 30, right? Whatever the fuck it is, right? A lot of times when you're starting, you want your stop loss probably to be like 35 or even 40%, because you really haven't started, you don't know what you're doing yet. So you should do like a 40% target and 40% stop loss with a 40x leverage. And if you told me that on average, we looked at your 10 trades, and most of the trades pulled back 25 to 32% before they went to 30 to 37%, right? So if I looked at your 10 trades and your average pullback is 23 to 32%, I know for sure we got to fix your entries. You're fucking terrible, because you should only pull back before it goes up an average of 10 to 15%.
Gotcha. So this shit is like calculated as hell. Like,
yes,
you can figure out the problem with anybody's. Like, that's a fucking great resource, man.
Yeah. So that's what we do. The first thing I do is I solve you, right? The system is fucking flawless. I mean, the system, like, I could literally write a system 100% wins every day. Like, you'll never lose. But the problem is the person doing it, right? Systems don't fail, people do.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's the human that fails, right? So I have to go, and that's why my style of trading is systematic. But most of the time, what I'm doing is I'm fixing human behavior.
Yeah.
It's all psychological, right? It's a one big circle. It's two parts. You need a systematic system that never fails, and you have to fix the human emotions that he stops fucking it up.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
What do you recommend people to start with, like, percentage of their bankroll, like, when they're starting out?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, the first thing you do is because you got to learn the system, right? The system, and then you got to pick a strategy. So you want to start with something that makes you at least happy, right? So if you have, let's say, $1,000, right? You want to start off and say, okay, I'm going to do my first 10 trades. I'm going to run $100, and I'm going to do 40% leverage, 40% target, 40% stop loss, right? And you got to take those 10 trades. Now on your losses, you lose $40. You just take $40, put in the next trade, do another 100, right? On your wins, you win $40, right? You break even most of the time. But what you're really looking for is, out of 10 trades, how negative did you go on 10 of those trades? And then we repeat it one more time to get another set of data, right? And then the third time we get it and we look at the data and it's pretty much the fucking same thing. Now we have a pattern. Now we say, okay, whatever you're doing, you suck at entries. So this is how you enter properly, right? You become greedier on your entry. So if you're normally pulling back 32, 34% or average of 30%, if we start entering better and only pull back 10%, that means we've already gained 20% to the positive side. So if you're normally only going up 20% to 25%, now we just fixed it. Now you go up to 45%. By eliminating, you see how easy that was?
Yeah.
Now you've just become a successful trader, and I haven't done shit except teach you to be greedy on the entry. Okay? So then we repeat the process. 30 fucking trades, 3 sets of 10. Now I see the same result where now you're hitting 40%, 7 out of 10 times. Your pullbacks are only 15 to 20%. Beautiful. Now I turn around and say, okay, now that we have a step-by-step thing and we fix your entries, we got this. Now we can move from 40x to 50x leverage, right? Because now the losses that you took only went to 27%. They didn't hit the 40% because they pulled back before that. You had to move your stop loss up and you ended up getting stopped out at your entry. But by adding 10% leverage, now those 27s will become 40% winners because we used the leverage to increase the value of the percentage.
Yes, gotcha. Yeah.
But while staying, the biggest thing is while keeping your stop loss not blowing past your average. Because now your stop loss, if it averages 20%, will go back to averaging 30, but we're also getting 10% on the other side.
So you have to adjust your stop loss depending on the leverage.
Well, yeah. What you have to do is your stop loss, your leverage, right, is based on how your pullbacks are, right? If your pullback is constant, where we just can't solve right now that you keep getting a fucking 3. Let's say that on average you see a 3% pullback, right?
Yeah.
And your stop loss is 30%, or let's say 40, right? Let's go a little higher. That means that your leverage cannot be more than 10%, because on a 3% pullback, that's negative 30.
And that's the maximum loss you're going to have.
Yeah, because you want to give yourself that 40% stop loss because your average is 30, but you can't increase your leverage any higher than 10 because your fucking entry's terrible.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Or I say, but it could be your fucking strategy. Like you might have a strategy that always pulls back 30%, but it runs, the other direction, an average of 6%, right? Which means if you're doing a 30x or a 10x, right? 10x means when it does run, it gives you an average of 60%, but it will pull back 30. So you can't raise your leverage because your system doesn't allow you to, because your pullbacks are always 3%. So that means you have to have a 40% stop loss on a 3% pullback on average. But when it does run, it does give you a 6% move to the upside, which means that your maximum gain is 60%. So that with that system, you need to set your targets for 40% profits and stop losses for 40% losses. And the maximum leverage you can use is 10, because mathematically you cannot push that any further because you'll get stopped out more.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right? Like with that type of number, we would actually say that what you need to do is go down to a 7% leverage to give you a slight more chance of not being stopped out, and then take 30% profit, because think about it like this. If the average move is 6% and your average is a 10x leverage, you're making 60%. If we went to a 5x leverage, which would double your stop loss capability, meaning that when it pulled back 3% instead of 30, it would only be 15. You see what I'm saying? Which means you can put your stop loss at 30% instead of 40, saving yourself in there, and plus giving you a double the size. So it could actually pull back 5% and still go the other way, and you won't get stopped out. Now, on the other side, we're taking your 10%, which is average of 6% move, which would be a 10x times 6, is a 60% profit. We take it down to 5x leverage, and now we go for 25% profit, or 20. Let's just say 20% profits, because we're lowering the leverage. Now, all we would do here is say, well, how much do you want to make? And you say, well, VC, I want to make, $500 a trade. Well, then all I have to do is calculate a 5%, a 5x return on something, right? So if we were doing $1,000, right, that means on those returns you have, for every 10x you're doing is 100. So now you're making 50. So you would have to do a $5,000 trade in your process to make your 2,500. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's all numbers. Once you, yeah.
Bitcoin is fucking green moons 2 hours all the way back. I just fucking made my progression. So.
Yeah, we're longing like a motherfucker here.
We just put the new 2-hour candle. But go ahead.
But that's where you see how we can calculate your basic moves, and then all I have to do is, once I understand what you're doing, is teach you how to calculate and adjust what you do for yourself. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the moon indicator is simply confirmation of what you're seeing. That's why your uncle, for him, it's like great because it's like his confidence is like, man, I'm seeing all this shit. Like he sees the game now, right? So he can start designing his own fucking trades that fit what he sees, and that's endless. Like that is the only thing he has to always remember is to constantly calculate risk versus reward. The better he gets and the more he makes, he has to learn to put more money and then lower the leverage to create safety.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right? And eventually he'll be doing $10,000-$20,000 trades and he won't need 60 to 70%. He'll just be taking 40 and he'll knock those out 10 a week. So he'll be $40,000 a week with half the risk.
Yeah.
That's because he mastered how to make 70 and 80% trades. That's fucking crazy, right?
It really is crazy, man. All this shit's super interesting, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
But
You
then,
were thinking you were gonna get a whole lesson today.
I didn't know. First of all, I didn't know I was gonna be talking to this guy right here who just has been through all this shit, talked to all the fucking guys. You know what I mean? Where'd you find this guy, man? You just found him.
Dude, this girl I know, Nikki, got me to get on TikTok and found him. There's a funny story. Kristen was driving to the airport and she's like, well, who's this guy you're going to meet? And I was like, oh, I don't know, this guy from TikTok. Been talking to him on live. What's his name? I'm like, I don't know. His name's VC. She's like, what's that mean? I'm like, venture capitalist. She's like, you don't even know his name? I'm like, you know how I fucking roll. Nope. We talked for like 3 hours on the phone, did some lives, and had a good vibe, good energy. Fucking, let's do it.
yeah. And that's the conversation today is great because what we're doing is we're going to be building a crypto network of just how to. And I've been thinking about. I'm always like, thinking of how do we explain this shit because you're dealing with people, right? And when it's too easy, people don't believe it, and when they see it, they don't believe it, and it's like I'm always so confused on why people will put thousands of dollars in a meme coin that never fucking wins, but won't put money into a system that is showing success. And I'm just like, it's so fucking weird, but it's how you present these things. And then I was like, I used to look at people's systems and be like, man, that's just, that doesn't work. And now I'm realizing, like, you know what I need to do is just take everyone's system, review it, and then explain the financial moments like everyone else is doing, because that's all people understand. And then showing them how to simply play the game better. And then eventually when they realize that the game is different, and then they can slowly move into strategies that we have and be like, well, this is way better, right? But that takes time. So that's why I was saying this conversation is great, because the YouTube channel I'm going to do is basically this. I'm going to review influencers and people's courses and go through what everyone's paying. Oh, you're paying 20 grand for this course. Well, let's take a look at it, right? And be like, well, here's how it works. And here's how it wins and losses. Here's its wins and losses. Here's its percentages. And this is how to actually use this system properly, right?
Well, the problem, and probably why people have a hard time, like, if they see you doing this stuff and, like, believing it, is because there's so many people that are doing this stuff and they have it on, like, like paper trading. Like, they're literally fake. I've seen people doing fake paper trading, saying it's real. Like, I've seen, like, people... Yeah.
You can see in the corner it says paper trading.
Yeah, I know, but they hide it. Like, they'll move their screen. Like, they do crazy shit, right? And then all this stuff is, they're ambiguous about it. You know what I mean? Like, they don't actually go into the actual, like, how I'm talking to you right now, asking you actual questions. Like, it's more just like, okay, this is the strategy, but, like, they don't tell you what to do when this exactly happens. It's more... Yeah,
because they don't know. It's all, they're all guessing. Right, that's what I'm saying. Everyone's doing the same system. They're hoping support and resistance holds, and then if it doesn't hold, it's like and goes through it, and then it bounces up and it makes its move. And they're like, "See, I told you Bitcoin was going up." So Bitcoin will go up, and then it's going to go down, and then it'll find support, and then on support it'll bounce and find resistance. But eventually, it's going to break through resistance and use it as support. And it's like, yeah, but when? Like what's the? You can't. That's not. It's like the overall, they're all, and this is the messed up part. what they're saying is absolutely right. It will always do exactly what they're telling you it's going to do because that's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's always going to find support. It will always break through resistance. It will go to this mark and come back to this mark. That's what it's going to do. They just don't know fucking when. And if you don't know when, or at least if you're going to do their system, you have to have a strategy to maximize off their system, which is what everyone is doing. If you're going to be playing a game and you're buying, so let's say you never use leverage, right? I mean, fuck, I could give you a strategy where you never use leverage and you would win 100% of the time and be 10 times more successful than every other trader you know.
Hey, I just bought that dip. I'm in for 5 stacks, 70x on my margin right now.
I seen that dip. And like, and everyone would always win. It's not that hard. You can't lose. When you start taking percentages where a 1% move, right? Because most people have like 50 grand in and be like, damn, I did 2% today on Bitcoin. You're like, damn. And it's like, you know, they had to have like a whole fucking 2-3% move for them to even be like, man, that was amazing. Meanwhile, we're over here and we made 90% on that move, right? And it's like we used 10 grand, so we took in 30,000 a day, and you guys had 50 grand on the line, and you made your 3%. Let's say 10%. They took in 5 grand, we took in 30, but we used the tools that are available. Both successful. Now their way has no risk because their market could fall out, right? Let's say Bitcoin crashed again, went to 30,000, 40. And we sat here, and the best part is we can short the market and we make money on the way down. But most of the time before those tools existed, people would sit there and hold. Now, you don't lose anything until you sell. So even if Bitcoin, like the way we went through the 2001 winter where we had to circulate all the way to 15, and then finally, 4 years later, 3 years later, we just had that big run. All those people were right. Bitcoin, remember 2021, everyone was screaming out Bitcoin was going to 90,000. And I explained to them that it's impossible because the market cap's only 2.6 trillion. In order for it to get there, it needs 3.8. And people are they couldn't fathom that because they don't understand market cap. And that's just reality. And I'm like, where's the rest? There's none of that money is going to come in here until we have ETFs and we have institutional money. It's the only way Bitcoin will break 100,000. They just didn't believe it. They just can't understand it. And that's where all the people that were sitting there telling you Bitcoin was going to 100,000 are screaming, I told you, man. Well, it's been 4 fucking years, bro. I mean, Bitcoin will go to 1 million. It might take a decade, but it'll get there. That's like the XRP people. Right? They just do it differently because they're like every day. On November 5th, we're going, November 6th is like every other day, it's another day. Like eventually, what's so fucked up, all these people that have been sitting around telling everyone that XRP was going to fucking $15 will eventually be right. It'll just be 2030. And they'll be on TikTok going, I told you, man. You just had to hold. Meanwhile, we're over here fucking made 1,000 times more money buying and selling the fucker every day. But yeah.
I ain't that coin no more, to be honest with you.
No, it's a hard coin to trade because the reality is the XRP fucking army is so strong, they don't sell. Like their movements are so fucking weird. It's really just based on Ripple. When Ripple decides to send out their money and then dump on their own customers is the only time. And everyone's like, yo, man, what's his name? He just announced that XRP is buying $1 billion. I said, well, I mean, they got you for 24 billion. I guess they can give one back.
Yeah, right.
I mean, what? And they're like, that's what's going to stabilize it. And I get it. Look, on a bigger business scale, here's how it's supposed to work, right? Let's say, like, it would be smart, right? So let's say that I created a coin and I knew this coin was super. and then I created all the narratives of why it would be super. And the bottom line is I have to build a marketing arm. I have to go out there and fucking send my sales teams off. So we sell the coin out there and it brings in money, and we sell the coins to our coins, our reserves, to make money, and then we use that money to build a company, and then we keep doing that over and over, and then we increase the value of the coin because we're selling more contracts and more people buy, and there's more marketing, and it goes on, and then we take the money out, then we keep siphoning out 20 to 30% of the profits, and we build that shit up for 10 years. And then once we've got the entire marketing arm, the company's built, everything around it, and we finally got to where we wanted, all the people that invested in from the very beginning who've been holding, because remember, like I told you in the beginning, the reason we call it VC crypto is because it's venture capitalism, where you don't need to be a solidified $200,000 liquidity investor. You can put 10 fucking dollars in and get in the game, right? You're buying the ICO. You don't have to be accredited. So even if most venture capitalists know that, let's say you had, so I didn't finish that story. I said if you had $500,000 and you could find projects, you would put $100,000 in each project. Now here's the kicker to it is that that literally 70% or 80% of those projects you put money into will probably fail, right? So let's say you have $1 million. You put 100,000 into, or 100,000 into 10 projects, and 8 of them fail. And the reason why venture capitalists don't care is because they make money in all types of businesses. So the companies that actually did make money have taxes. All they do is take their losses and write it off against their wins, and they break even. But now they own a company or a product or something that was coming out at such an early stage, is that every venture capitalist knows it takes 7 years to get your money back and 10 years to get a 5x return. So if the winning ones that we keep give us 5x every 10 years, the ones that lost, we just write off against our gains, and it just, keeps everyone else at bay. So you can't lose money at a venture capitalist, right? In crypto, it's the same thing, except you don't need to have 250 grand or 100,000 to get in the fucking coin. You can put $5. But if you hold that fucking coin for 10 years, guess what? You can be fucking rich, right? But that's the point, is like people don't understand that, this is just people building, and XRP is a prime example of how companies take the liquidity out of the coins, build real companies in the real world, hire real people to go out there and talk, and then build everything. And then in 10 years, 10 to 20 years from now, like we're already 10 in, but 10 years from 2021, 2031, when XRP actually reaches $10, $15, everyone who bought and believed in them at $1.50 and 47 cents are going to feel like geniuses. But they had to build a real company. That they built real shit. It just took 10 fucking years to get your money back. Now, you're going to get a fucking 100x return. Right? You bought at $1, you're getting back $15 for every dollar. That's massive. Like shit, that's most stocks only do a 3x in a lifetime for you. Sometimes if you get a 10x, you're like a fucking champion. Dude, a 15x, that's like, most people don't know this, but you have what they call that in Arizona, the fucking where all the technology guys are. What the fuck's that little section called?
I don't know about Arizona.
Are you talking about Cali?
No, Arizona. The all the tech guys who made all the money in the tech boom. What's that called? Oh, Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't realize that all those hundreds of millionaires and those billionaires who have all that money, they were only invested in 2 stocks. When you looked at their portfolio, they either owned Google or Amazon. They're not geniuses. They just bought into the new technology and they got lucky. And now everyone sits around like, I'm going to go to Silicon Valley because I'm going to build a business with these smart people. What do you mean? Their portfolio had one thing. They either got rich with Google or fucking Amazon. That was it. They don't know shit about the fucking markets.
Right.
But that's all it takes. So all the people who are holding XRP, I got a buddy, man. He's got $150,000 in an XRP at fucking 30 cents. And he has never fucking sold. I call him Diamond Hand Joe. That motherfucker don't give a shit. It don't matter how many times I tell him to sell and rebuy. If he would have bought and sold every fucking time at top, like I told him, his 100 grand would be worth $1 million already. But he just holds. He won't fucking sell, bro. He, like, one time I was laughing. I was like, I'm gonna bring you on so you can show how many times you bought XRP and never fucking sold. Like, you'd be at $1 million already, bro. And he says, well, in 10 years, when it hits $15, I'll be at $1 million anyways.
Yeah.
And that's just the mindset of it. So I'm like, okay. I said, yeah, but if you would have bought and got to $1 million over the last 5 years, you would be at 20 million in 10 years. I was like, but who the fuck cares? Who needs an extra 19 million? But, you know, and it's just so weird that that's how it is. In 10 years, you have all these motherfuckers out here going, I told you to hold XRP. And everyone will think they're geniuses. But they don't know the real story. They don't know that their $1 million should have been 20. But they weren't smart enough to make it. Yep. But that's what really happens. That's why when we're out here talking, it's like, how do we, like, what's the and I'll be honest, like, sometimes I get like, I get excited when, you know, like, talking to you is exciting because it's like you're a 19-year-old finance guy. You're fucking digging into this shit and you're like looking at it like at the right fucking way to look at it. And that's exciting to me because that's like, this motherfucker could do something. Like, that's what excites me, is that people who can take information and be like, oh man, I'm gonna build some shit. Like, that's what excites me.
I love it, bro. To be honest with you, I love math, so it's kind of, right, kind of the same thing too.
Oh yeah. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, so I didn't mind talking to you.
And just let him trade my money, and we'll just be partying, BC. Be the mastermind of all of it.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, it's like, it's exciting to, you know, it's very rare to come across, you know, people who see this shit and be like, man, it's all mathematics, man. It's in mathematical equations. And when you really get it, it's like amazing. Now, the other part is like teaching people, like, who fucking, the only reason I started creating a trading system is because 95% of people lose, right? I want to create a system that has 70% wins. Like, when you go from a 95% loss to a 70% win, that's fucking historical.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in it. I'm in it for that moment. I'm in it for that fucking, you know, realization of like, damn, we just took a system that's 150 years old and turned it from literally a fucking 95% loss rate and turned it into a 70% win rate. That'll go down in history. That's why, you know, creating the YouTube, creating the channels and everything else is like so fucking important, is because it's going to be an amazing moment to be like, yo, this is what we saw, this is how we fixed it. And it was all just mathematics. It was all just equations. And it just came down to where people just don't understand that part, man. It's so fucking simple. And when you do it, it's like, man, that's what changes lives. Like, everyone can do this. You know, you can make trade easy, lower all your risks, get into better positions, and just literally play the game the way it's supposed to be played. And it's just like, I mean, it's fucking incredible, man. That's really what it comes down to, is that fucking moment. And that's why I get in here and I start digging in and do more work than I should, because I'm like happily retired. But
so that's like all this, you just enjoy teaching all this shit to people, you know?
Yeah, I just want to, like, you know, at the end, it's all, you know, it's like creating something, right? Like, when you see it at the end, you're like, damn, we just created something that's like legendary. Like, this is a game changer. I'm not, and like my wife the other day, you know, she's fucking brilliant, but you know, she's creating shit that I'm like, wow. Like, she's making shit that just, like, she has an app that literally you can just, it's so fucking crazy. One day she's gonna release it soon, but she's making a video game, making all types of shit. And I was like, and I was sitting there like listening to her, like, explaining, and I tested her shit, and it was like dead on. And I was like, wow. I said, you know, I looked my whole life. Like my entire philosophy during my life was, I need to find 10 people like me, and then I can teach them what I know, and then I can just walk away and take 10% of the pie, and I'll have 100% of the return. And those guys will be millionaires, and I'll be a millionaire just by helping them make millions. And I don't have to do shit. That was my entire philosophy. So I spent my whole life talking to people, learning people, looking for myself 10 times over, and built empires while looking for myself. And then I got to the end and was like, damn, I just don't exist. But I got where I wanted to go, and I was just like, fuck. And then I listened to her talk, and I'm like, damn, who would have thought this whole time I was looking for you? Like, goddamn, her creations are like, she has this thing coming up. I'm shit you not, it'd probably be worth about 300 million, bro. Like, minimum. Like, I'm like, goddamn, that's fucking brilliant. Like, what the fuck? Like, it blew my mind. I was like, I told her, I said, babe, it's very rare. I've sat in rooms with fucking big billionaire CEOs. Dude, I've been in a lot of fucking chats. I said, I have never heard anyone do something or impress me on the way what you just did. Like, you blew my fucking mind. Like, that's a $300 million deal right there. Like, I can think of a million ways to sell that motherfucker. Like, that's so crazy. And she's just like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's fucking. I said, it's sad. I said, I spent my whole life building shit. I said, you're going to come along and you're going to 10x everything I've ever done in my life with one fucking project. Like, that's fucking, it's insane. But like, when you start to understand things, you're just like, wow, that's like, it's amazing. So I love teaching. That's why I'm trying to do it in a way that doesn't like, we reach people, but in a level they can get, because people are simple. Like, the one thing about people is, they're very simple minded, and you have to and they've got all this programming against them, and you have to reprogram, and you have to it's like everyone's emotional. They don't make decisions based on like percentages. They make decisions based on how they fucking feel, which makes no fucking sense. And I'm like, how do because I wanted to do a show for the last year and a half, and I was like, what show do I do? Like, do I talk about crypto? Like, I talked about crypto for the last 5 years, and people still don't fucking understand. I said, but do I even fucking care to talk about crypto like that? I mean, the shit's so simple and so basic. 90% of these coins are going to shit, and 10% of them will be worth something, and quantum computer is going to fucking bring the next round of crypto that'll be 10 times better than this crypto. So is any of this worth anything? It's not. So it's just like, so I start thinking of the future, and I'm just like, but what do I want to teach? And then I started doing trading, and then it was like breaking that down, and then I was like, you know what? We're going to do MTE. But now that's fucking done, and it's going to run. But I'm like, how do we get people to actually, take a call of action, right? And I used to shit on people's things and be like, look, none of this works. And now I'm like, you know what? What I should do is just take everyone's system, because people don't want to learn something new because they're scared. So what I'll do is I'll go through all the things that people buy. Like, I'm going to start running videos like, tell me your best influencer. What system do you like the best? Tell me the best trade. I need the best trading system. And then when everyone starts telling me the best that they've ever fucking seen, we will evaluate them fucking systems. And then we will fucking show how to use their own system. And then after we show them how to use their own fucking system and solve all the problems in their shit, then we'll give them a better solution to their fucking system. That's the evolution of getting people over. Nobody wants to do anything different. Nobody likes change, right? It's like, I was selling DirecTV, right? And DirecTV I'm fucking old, but back in 1996, they used to sit inside the hardware stores and they have a picture of like Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and you would just sign up for DirecTV. There was nobody there. And we were like, if you actually, people only buy things when people interact, and it was very simple. Like, back then, I don't even know if they have them anymore. They call it Redbox. And you used to go up to a Redbox and get a movie. And I used to explain to marketing companies, like, okay, the power of human contact, right, is very powerful. Like, word of mouth is the number one fucking marketing in the world. And how I can show you this is like, you ever walk into a store and you're about to get a Redbox movie, and you know you're sitting there looking at movies, and some guy comes in, he's returning a movie, and he's like, oh, I'm just going to return it. It's like, cool. And he's like, oh man, I don't know if you're looking for a comedy, but I just saw this Woody Allen comedy, and it was hilarious. I'm like, oh man, yeah. He's like, yeah, fucking 5-star, and he leaves. And you're sitting there, and you're like, fuck it, let me get the Woody Allen. Now you've never seen Woody Allen, you don't even know if you like Woody Allen, you don't even know who the fuck Woody Allen is. You get this comedy, and you're like, ah, this guy said it was great. You go home, and it's fucking shitty, and you're like, oh, this is terrible New York comedy. And you go back and you return it, right? And now you're shopping in a fucking store, and you're looking, and you look over at a product, and let's say you're buying a fucking plumber product, and you're cleaning your sinks, and there's 50 fucking options. And somebody walks by, and they're going through there, and they grab a plumbing thing, a sink cleaner, and walk off. Say, hey, you getting your sinks cleaned? They're like, yeah. Like, is that work? And they're like, oh yeah, man, I use plumber all the time. And you're like, okay, so you just grab that bottle and you go, right? You will always take what someone tells you, right? It doesn't matter that there's been a million fucking commercials on TV about certain products being better than other products. It's only when a human tells you that you are in 80% of the time. Like, but when you see something, like there was a movie called the fucking, what's it called, The Pie or some shit, where they named Dude and the Tiger, and it won, like, I seen like 7 Emmys, Academy Awards, right, all this bullshit, and I never watched it until I walked into a Best Buy and I was buying a surround system, and the guy was like, oh man, you see The Life of Pi? And I was like, no. He's like, dude, it's fucking great. And I was like, really? I said, I seen it, saw it won like 5 like Grammys or something, or Emmys and shit. He's like, oh yeah, dude. He's like, let me put it on here. He said, you're looking for a surround sound, right? He's like, sit down in the chair, I'll put it on, you can listen to the surround sound. And he's like, but you gotta watch this movie. And it's the only reason I watched the fucking movie. Is because some dude told me to watch it. But it didn't matter how many commercials, how many fucking Emmys it won. None of those things matter, right? Like my wife, before we watch a movie, she immediately goes to tomato. Oh, it's only 65% tomato. But the people score was 70. And I said, babe, we're going to watch every fucking movie, okay? And then we'll decide what the fucking score is, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's way different, right? And I'm like, you see, they only scored it this low because they don't respect how they did it. I said, so when you choose a movie based on what people tell you, it doesn't mean it's right. It just means their opinion. But the fact that you look at Rotten Tomato decide what movie we're going to fucking watch cracks me the fuck up. But that's how powerful word of mouth is, right?
Yeah.
And when you try to change people, they don't change. So when I was selling DirecTV, what I had to do was this. It was so crazy because you get people to a table and they'll be like, you ever walk into this is a while ago, but you used to walk into Sam's and Costco's and there'd be a guy selling you DirecTV, right? And that used to be us. That's what I used to fucking teach people to do. And
all the Costco's.
Yeah. And you walk in and you're selling DirecTV, and then you'd ask them very simple questions, right? Because first thing I need to know is just like how you did when people came in, you want to know their credit. So the questions I would ask is this. Be like, yeah, so, everyone's got their cable bill. The people that we talked to earlier said their cable bill is too high. So first thing I need to know is your cable bill too high? Because I know how much DirecTV costs. Second, I need to know how old your system is. And third, I need to know why you would change, right? So my questions were, yeah, most people came in today, said their cable bill's about $150, $200, and people be like, because some people be like, oh, my cable bill's fucking way too high. And it's like $70. It's like half the price of normal. But in their mind, it should be $30. But you'd be like, yeah, people are paying about $150, $200 for cable. What do you guys pay? Oh, we're paying $250. Yeah, the guys who just signed up earlier, a couple of the families, they wanted to cut that in half. If you cut your cable bill in half, would that help you out? Right? Now I'm creating why they should be buying DirecTV. And they're like, yeah, man, if I can cut that bill in half. Like, yeah, I mean, if you could use an extra $2,000 a year, what would you buy? Right now I'm spending the money that they're saving already because I'm creating the fucking illusion of what you're going to save here. You're going to buy a fucking yacht, a little canoe or some shit, or buy yourself a new fucking mini bike. The reality is you're just going to blow it on fucking food and movies. But I'm creating why you need to save money. And now that I got a customer, like how your uncle used to do, where he would get the credit check to make sure they could buy a car before you talk to them, I would make sure when I'm selling DirecTV that you're overpaying for cable, there's a pain point, there's a reason to change, and then I would give, once I knew all your negatives, right? I could use them against you later. I would then create like, well, let me show you, and then instead of selling you something, I would say, if I'm in a Sam's Club, I would say, well, let me show you what Sam's Club members are getting today, and they'd be like, oh, like you got a membership, right? Of course they got a fucking membership. That's why they're in there, right? And they'd be like, yeah. And now I'm creating what's called yes questions, right? So now I'm like, yo, you got a membership, right? And they're like, yeah. They're great. And you paid that membership because you want discounts, right? Yeah. And you deserve more for your money. Yeah. And now I got them motivated. They're like, yeah. So now these motherfuckers are saying yes to everything. So then I walk them over to the table and I say, well, okay, here's what we have. How many TVs do you have? Now I'm building their system. And at the end of it, I piece together the pricing. And we always sold them the highest price. And be like, so this is what it's going to do. But here's why in Sam's Club we're actually using DirecTV. You bought a new TV, right? The flat screen. They're like, yeah, that has 4K. And they're like, yeah. You ever notice how when you watch TV at your house, it doesn't quite look like the bar? Or like sometimes you go to a friend's house and the shit like is crystal clear. They're like, yeah. I was like, that's because you have 720, 1080, where DirecTV gives you 4K. So if you want your TVs to look like ours, and then I point at a TV that's all running 4K, you need a system, you need the boxes that deliver that to your TV. And they're like, oh, now these boxes normally cost about $1,000 to $2,000, depending on how many rooms you have. But for you, we could give you this entire system and actually waive those fees. And then boom, they're just hooked. They're like, oh my God, how do I get this? And I'd be like, well, it's not for everybody. And now I fear a loss them. It's not for everybody. But I can see if you qualify, and this is when we do the credit check. Have you ever had DirecTV? No. Let's do a quick phone call to see if you qualify for the free equipment, because I don't want to offer you $2,000 worth of equipment that you're not able to get. And then boom, we run through a credit check. I'd get the phone, of course. I'd be like, the guy would be like, yeah, his credit score is good. We can sign him up. And I'd be like, oh my God, so we can get a $1,000 system for free? Okay, we can do installation. We can waive the $300 installation. Hold on one second. I say, hey man, do you have your Sam's card? And they'd be like, yeah. Can I take a look at it? And I'd look at it for no fucking reason. And I'd be like, this guy actually is a VIP. Is there a way to get him like a gift card? And every time you signed up for Sam's Club, you get a $200 gift card for DirecTV. Like $200? Hey, did you want a $200 gift card with your order today? Or are they gonna say no? And boom. So I would sell. So the average when they started the program, just based on DirecTV and everyone who tried the program, they would average 3 sales a week. My team was doing 4 to 5 sales a day. So all I did was move the system into what made sense, right? So once you understand that people don't like change, right? And I used to always laugh because I'd have some people come to the table and they were the maddest people. They'd be like, I had tired of my cable bill. It's $300. I can't wait to get rid of them. And you'd be like, yeah. And I used to watch all my new people. I was in training, and I'd laugh. I'd be, watch this. This guy's not going to sign up. And they would be like, yeah, I hate my bill. It's $300. I can't wait to change. And they go through like a 45-minute presentation, waste a whole fucking day with these people. And then at the end, the person would be like, you know what? Let me think about it. And they were face was so funny because they're like, well, what do you mean? Think about it. Your bill's $300. You're down to $120. And you're getting everything free. And they're just, yeah, just let me think about it. And they walk off. And they're so dumbfounded. I said, well, you didn't fear a loss them. They told you all the positives you wanted. They basically sold you that they were going to buy. Yeah. And I said, but you didn't sell them shit. I was like, you never diverse from the system. Because the system is designed, and at that time it's behavioral sales. Like the system is designed to trigger reasons why, create the Jones effect, getting them in yes questions, and turning their brain into a moment where they actually fucking think, right? Otherwise, it's someone just complaining, venting, and then saying, okay, well, now that I know what that is, I'll be back. Like, that's where you have to...
That's the thing. It's so funny. Ask people, are you here for the big sale? It just change their whole fucking state of mind. Like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm here on the right day. How did I luck this out? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's what it is. And a lot of people don't actually know, like, what's happening. And that's where, I would have to, like, literally build, like, sales books and seminars to teach this shit. And that's what I did. I started teaching that shit to everybody. And, you know, I should have wrote books on this shit way back in the day. And as I went on, it just became, you know, I kept going, it was just like the systems work everywhere when you use systematics to it, right? So that the reason why I like trading, and the whole point of the story was this. I was sitting around the other day and my wife was like, you know, talking about all the things and, you know, charity things that we do, and we like to help out and like really fucking change things. And I was sitting there, I said, you know, babe, the reason why I do trading, right? It's not because, you know, anything other than the fact that it is actually the realest thing in life. Because when somebody wants to learn to do something like sales and marketing, I can teach a company to make a shitload more money. I said, but that doesn't really, it's not that risky. It's you hire more people, you made more money, you celebrate more. I said, the reason why I'm so fucking into trading is because there's a system and a strategy that has gone 100+ years where 95% of people lose and 5% of people are successful. And their successfulness isn't even that great. It's maybe $100,000 a year. Some people make $1 million. I said, but at the end of the day, it's like a basic 95%. I said, in changing that from a 95% loss to a 70% winning rate would make everyone like, it's phenomenal. It's like groundbreaking. It's an achievement that you can hang your hat. I said, but the reason why I really do it is because trading is fucking life. I said, there's nothing else in the world that you do where you can fucking literally lose your life. I said, when I talk about trading is life, I fucking mean it. There are people that get into trading and lose so much that they fucking kill themselves. They unalive themselves. And this was before that big dip. And I was like, I got it recorded. I got to play that record. This is how I'm going to launch my tube channel. And I'm like, I teach it because when you're doing this, you're doing it for real. There's nothing realer in the fucking world but trading. Because trading is such a all-in, balls to the wall, make it or break it moment. And most people kill themselves when they lose. I'm like, there's nothing else I can be teaching and showing people to be successful in that has that type of risk. Like, I can teach people sales all fucking day. If they don't learn how to sell DirecTV or anything they're selling, they're not going to go themselves, right?
Yeah.
But in trading, there's people here that are going to learn a system that will save their fucking life, literally. And literally, like, I think 4 or 5 days later or 7 days later, that crash happened, and motherfuckers who were worth millions of dollars were killing themselves in their Lamborghinis.
Yep.
And if they had my system, they fucking wouldn't have get murdered. If they talked to me one fucking time, they wouldn't have lost their life. Like, and that's where I was like, man. And that was, to me, was a sign to be like, you know what, make the fucking channel. Because if you understood, like, I was blown away that people didn't have stop losses. Like, who trades without a stop loss? The fuck? Like, I'm just so, like, blown away by the stupidity. Like, but it's life. Like, people, like, it's life or death. Like I said, I'm teaching something that's literally life and death. Like, you're not losing your money, you're losing your life. Like, some people lose. I had guys that, I built Discords, and then people in my Discord would learn from me, and then they'd be like, oh, I'm going to start my own Discord. And then people went with them, and then all of a sudden they weren't, you know, they didn't understand the real system, because I wasn't really teaching. At that time, I was just teaching how to make support and resistant trades, what they were already doing. And they would start their own systems, and they go out, and I had people email me like a year later, like, yo, VC, man, I'm reaching out to you because, you know, I left the Discord, and I joined the other Discord, and I know you told everyone that to make sense of it would be, you know, you have to make sure your risk, and don't let other people take you in a system that they haven't proven shit. Stay with smart trades, and you warned us and you told us. And he's like, I'm just so fucking distraught. I lost my house. They kept telling me that the market was going to go up, And you know, when you kept saying it was going down, they all said you were crazy. And I got like 5, 6 TikTok messages from that. People lost their houses. I was like, damn. And they were just like, I wish I would have stayed. I just felt bad, you know. And I just read them and be like, wow. I mean, I don't know what I mean. You know, I was like, man, what do you do with that message? You know,
Yeah.
like fuck, like, you know, I know a lot of times, you know, it's like for help, but it's like, how can I help you? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do I do? Do I create a fund or what the fuck? I mean, I don't even know where to, you know, start with this. You know, am I buying houses for people now? What are we doing? And and at that point, I'm like, that's why I was like thinking to myself the other day. I was talking about, I was telling my wife, I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I said, I'm gonna start the very first community wallet. I was like, in our Discord, in our trading group, I was like, I'm gonna create a wallet, and we're just gonna fucking put the wallet in. When you join the community, you put your date and when you came in, and this community wallet is just gonna accumulate for the next fucking 10 years. And during that time, we'll make investments, because in 10 years we'll know what we should be buying, and we'll have like absolute, you know, crypto fucking, you know, footprint actually happening, to where we will know who won the race, like who won the race, who gets the babies, and who's getting paid. And we can take that fund and, you know, invest it in real fucking crypto projects. I said, and then start doing dividends based on when a member existed, where they were in the system, and at the end of it, like if you're in the project and you're trying and you're doing the system and you're going through it and you're, you know, participating, like at the end we'll have this massive fucking wallet that you can get dividends on for your family, like for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like the community wallet. And I'm like, that's what we'll build. So that way when people come in and be like, yeah, this is the wallet. And like when you guys do really well, put a little in the community wallet. We're going to build this fucker up. And then have that wallet just, you know, buying shit and just continue to, like, I was sitting there going, shit, well, Solana's going to 1,000, maybe 2. So we could buy shit out of Solana and, you know, the main cryptos, and just keep stacking it in the fucking wallet. And in a decade, turn around and be like, hey, what did we turn that 100 grand into? You know, 3, 4, 5 million? And then you can start giving out smart contracts and dividends to all the people that have been in the community, who were helping people get on, showing people wallets, you know, all the shit that we build, where people get returns like, yeah, and this is what we built. And then, you know, most of the people that are here will be wealthy anyways. And we could be like, what are we going to do with this? And be like, well, let's get all the people that couldn't get into crypto, and let's give them trading accounts, and then bring them into the fucking society. So now we'll be funding people's shit. You know, imagine taking a fucking African village and starting off everybody with $100, you know, and teaching them how to fucking flip that into $500-600 a week. You know, you could build shit. So that's where I was like, man, that's what we'll build, is something that people, you know, turn around and they don't like think that they're on their own. Like, this is a community. Like at the end, you know, everyone winning here, even if it's not you at the time, the goal is in 10 years to support everyone that was around. You know, so that's why I was playing with myself, like, man, we should create the community wallet and see how big that gets, you know? So that's the kind of shit I sit around thinking about. But like, that's where, you know, the YouTube channel, and I'm glad you popped on, because I wanted to sit down and have people who have interest in, you know, the financial area, you know, going to school for that shit. I want to go through systems, right, and sit down and get a fresh perspective of, okay, well, what does a college student think of this shit? Because you're the next generation. You know, if I can get a bunch of college people trading properly today instead of dumb shit, I mean, fuck, we'd have an army in 5 years.
I mean, I could tell you there's definitely a lot more people younger that are invested in stocks compared to before. Like, it's very common. People talk about people that you'd never expect to invest in stocks. Or like,
and that was, I mean, Robinhood had a big part in that by giving people the ability to do options when you had to be an accredited investor. Like, I remember that was like...
Robinhood probably made a few people in their life, I feel like, by enabling options like that.
Yeah. I mean, you're supposed to have, you know, to get that enabled, you need $250,000. And all you had to do was, like, you applied and it said, how long have you been investing? 10 years. You just fucking answered your own questions. 10 years. Okay. Are you a good investor? Yes. You know, and if you get denied, you just redo it, and then it's like, okay, you've been approved. Like, I was like, holy shit! I remember when people were like, "Yo, VC, you can do options on Robinhood." I'm like, what? And then we applied for it. I'm like, bro, that's dangerous as fuck. Like, there's a reason why there's like things on here, but there's a reason why, you know, it holds you back. So I'm like, I'm against it, but I'm also not against it, because you should be able to make a shitload of money on this fucking things. Like, what do you do with this? But yeah, I mean, it was like a crazy moment. That was a crazy moment. So when I was in GameStop, and fucking, dude, I made a killing in GameStop, AMC, fucking Spirit Airlines. It was crazy, but it's like, you know, where we should. So that's what I wanted to come down to, is like, how do we talk about finances and like all this change of wealth that's happening, and actually make it like interesting to talk about, you know? Like, I can talk finances all fucking day, but it's like, how does that make people money?
It requires somebody to have interest. I mean, it's hard to make it. I mean, like, simplifying it is great, you know, for most people, but I don't know if most people would sit here like me and Chad for 3 hours on the phone talking about, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And time flies. I mean, if we were on YouTube right now, people would watch this shit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
because it's a perspective of, you know, someone talking the knowledge, another guy who's in between it, and a college student. And they're like, no one's talking about this shit. That's what I'm saying. This is what the show really is about, right? And what we have to do is just segment it properly.
I just got stop loss out in profit. We just got a little pullback coming here on Solana, and then we're going to launch again.
Yeah, I'm shorting right now. I went short at 164. Yeah, 163.80.
Right on. Yeah. No, I took a nice profit, and I'm waiting to see. I'm watching this 2 minute. We're going to pop right back up.
Is this affected by like if the market's going down, like, because you're trading on short intervals, right? So it doesn't really matter what the market's doing.
I mean, I'm watching the long.
Exactly.
I'm watching the short.
Right.
It's mostly short.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, we're a jab. We like to hit and run. Bang bang.
Yeah, I mean, I know where it's going, but it's not never going to be a straight shot. So
yeah. So it's like this, right? Once you know what it's supposed to do, when it doesn't do that, you know what it will do. You know what I mean? Like, right now, the market has all types of variables, right? So that's why I say most times where people are, you know, they know what's supposed to happen, but they just don't know that the variable is how far is it going to go the other way before that happens, right? That's why you have to create a system.
This is a typical pump move of Solana, where I bought the dip, ran it up. I put my stop loss pretty close, but I knew that we're going to retest down before we fucking launch up. And
oh, yeah.
Why you're waiting, right?
Well, I mean, I took my money, but now I'm going to re-enter. Yeah.
And that's where you have to, that's why I say when, you know, most people are holding on and trying to run a trade, the longer you're in a trade, the longer things can change, right? But if you're taking the quick pops and you're creating ways to make money on those, you're just trading channels, top to bottoms, top to bottoms, bottoms to top to bottoms, right? So if you're trading along, you trade the bottoms to the tops. And then if it becomes a short, then you start trading the shorts to the bottoms. Because what happens is, if you're trading the bottom to the top on a long, you know, you do that 3-4 times as it builds momentum, eventually it breaks out, right? If you're trading a short, you're going from the top of the channel to the bottom, eventually it's going to break through. And when that happens, you go from making your 30-40% per trade to all of a sudden a massive fucking dump. Like, you can go from making $300 to making 30,000. Like, all it takes is one moment.
164 is at a major support zone, but I think our next leg up, we're going to rip through that. And once we get through that, I mean, dude, 170, 172 is a real deal looking at these indicators from what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And that's where the money, see, that's why I say, like, this, so what your uncle's doing right now is what every trader is doing, is they're seeing what should happen. The difference is your uncle's sitting with an indicator that's letting him know when that will actually happen. Like,
oh, that's the real
Yeah.
And topic, I've jumped in and out of different trades.
I've seen, yeah.
Make profit, watch the fucking shit move up and down, yeah.
So that's the indicator is the real thing. Because
I
I
actually made a pullback right now. Like, if you want to
Yeah.
get good quickly, you need to spend some time sitting with me. And
I'm literally just gonna come here on Fridays probably just get with you.
Yeah, but that's the difference. See, the difference is the MTE moon indicator, the money tracker, confirms for him, right? He doesn't hold longer than he should, and then he knows that he's going to get his bounces.
I got the moon indicator to confirm it, and now I've been trading Solana quite a bit. I'm very familiar with the typical pump up and the retests, and I know, all right, let me get my money. Like when we touch the minus 23, I always take that first pump, and every once in a while we don't retouch the minus 23, but 9 times out of 10, I'll pull like a 70-80%, and then we retest and I re-enter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so that's the difference is when you use the indicator, he's no longer in the emotional game. He's in a systematic game. He just He just moves with the money.
Any fucking trades?
No, I haven't seen you nervous at all.
And that's it. He's just fucking, and now he's like, and now, the other part is the mentality of when we sat there and talked, it was like, understanding that taking those profits add up because the longer you hold, hoping for the next profits, you already gave profits back 3 times and then it broke out. So in reality, you missed out on 3 profits waiting for the big profit. It's like, oh, I could have made $1,000 waiting for this to make $1,000. And then if it doesn't go the way you want, it doesn't matter anyways because you already fucking money.
Yeah.
So it's the indicator is the confirmation of all the trades, but it's also the mentality of understanding how to fucking, the indicator just it just allows you to make the decision. It's like, okay, I this is 2-minute pullbacks happen. I got to take my money.
Hey, are you still short?
Yeah, I'm still kind of sitting in a short here.
Yeah, we may get one more drop down.
Yeah. And we're just waiting for money to build. But that's the whole thing. That's what we teach. So now we just got to take the system and kind of like, the only way to really get people to use a system is to go and like work on their systems, right? Once we're done, going through everyone else's system and then fixing their system and then going, but instead of doing all this, I just do this. And then saying,
I should learn this though, right? Like,
yeah. And your uncle, he covers, he's in all the systems anyways. He's just he's going through the transitions of the systems. And then he's just, at the end of it, he's just using the main system as confirmation of what he sees. Yeah, that's it. So he knows there's support and resistance. He knows where it's supposed to go. He knows where it's supposed to bounce. The money indicator, the moon indicator, simply is telling him when that's actually like becoming reality versus emotionally.
Actually, green moon on Bitcoin, but I'm not following Bitcoin. I'm just watching Bitcoin to see what direction we're heading.
Yeah.
And see our RSI is still pointed down on the 2-minute here, Solana.
Yeah, and like so, right here we expect a certain type of pullback, right? And while he's sitting out of it, waiting for his move, if it doesn't pull back what it should, then he knows that it's getting stronger and he's more into his position. You see what I'm saying? Like it's almost like you start to see it, and it's like, okay, it should pull back to 162. But let's say it pulls back to 162.75, a slight pullback. And then the next move pushes up to 164, and it comes down even less. And now he's watching it, so he's like, oh, this is building momentum. And it makes sense because on all the moon indicator, it's telling him that it's building momentum. But now he's seeing it in real time, too, which allows him to start to prepare and say, okay, eventually they're going to swipe liquidity here. And when they do that, that's when I'm going to fucking jump in this motherfucker because that's the greediest entry and I got momentum moving with me.
Yep.
So that's that's the money. That's the juice, But yeah, I mean, that's so, welcome aboard. And I'll be, like I said, I mean, we're piecing together some stuff. I got a YouTube channel coming. And I was just talking about the other day. I was like, man, I need to, really get into systems and the finance side to explain, like, because most people are interested in stocks. And I was like, so do I talk about stocks and options and then show them how the system works and then go, but the reason why I do crypto is because it's so much easier, and actually convert people from stocks and options to crypto, which I think is the right way to go.
I feel like stocks would be much more complicated. I mean, there's so many more variables.
Right. And the indicators, they work on stocks too. But the difference is on crypto, you can eliminate more of those variables that could cause things, where you get more away from the rumor, sell the news, profit and loss, financial reports, you know what I'm saying? Like all the things that change things, right? Where you become like, oh, but the thing about the indicators, if you took them to stocks, bro, if you went, right, and you'll see, because we're going to do a whole thing on the stock side, because they're accurate as fuck on the stock side, because stocks move slower. Like the indicator can register and sense it. Dude, crypto is so fucking fast.
What time frame do you use that moon indicator when you're looking at stocks?
Well, same thing. I mean, normally I like to do a little more. If you can go a little bit higher, like 15 to 1 hour all the time, because they move so much slower.
Right.
Crypto's 100, 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like in stocks, it's like, the moon, like it's so crazy when you put it on there. You're like, wow. But the problem is we're not getting, like, we know when Tesla's going to do 3% to 5%, but I'm not getting a fucking 50x on that. But when you build up and you got, an extra 100 grand and you got all that, I mean, you can put 100 grand on fucking, Tesla, Disney, you make a 10% move. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with 10 grand that week.
So you see what this is doing on this pullback right here? It's seesawing up and down, and it wants to fucking trick FOMO motherfuckers into jumping in before it lets the bottom goes to that 162 range.
Okay, so you're just looking at this
right here. No, I mean we're gonna come down here.
Yeah.
But it's trying to create some. It's gonna rock up and down. You have a nice spike up. I mean, it wants to just fucking fool people to fucking
Thinking it's
make a bad fucking entry, and if they're high leverage, they're fucked. They get stopped out, or they ain't got stop loss to get fucked.
And this comes back to hit support. What are you looking for to either enter?
Well, this is my trading screen right now on BitMEX. I'm watching. I got the support levels on the Fibonacci right on the 2 minute. That's a.
Yeah. So basically, right now, what we're doing is this, right? There's a bunch of retail investors who are buying a channel, right? And they're deciding right now that 162.90 is a channel bottom, right? And some people have already.
Yeah.
If you look to the left, like just on the 1 minute, you'll see where there was a spike, right? You look to the left, there's a big dip, and then up above it you have one top, a pullback, another top, and then you have that first big top, right? Before that big top, if you look, there was a cluster right before that previous high, the high of the day, right? And that high is a 163.20, and its low is 162.75. So what people did is, when that happened, they put orders at 162.75 because that was supposed to be the support of the previous channel. It broke through that when it had that huge dip, went down to 161.97, which was the previous. Remember I told you how to be greedier? That was the previous fucking cluster, the previous.
What time frame are you on right now?
I'm just looking at the 1 minute.
Oh.
So if you go to your BitNEX or whatever, and you look at the 1 minute, right?
Yeah. I just drew the line for the channel that you were talking about.
Yeah. So that's what people do, is they decided that first parallel channel that was sitting across there at 162.70 was going to be a floor, and that's where we're headed now. And you could see that the previous time before that, if you would have looked down, the other side was the top of that previous channel was 162.84. Now, most people put their buys at 162, at the higher level, because they're too afraid not to get in the trade. So they're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to get in at 162.82. Well, it blew past that and went to the next lower level, which was the 162.15, and then it bounced after it ate up everybody's orders. Now on this, now how everything works is very simple. There's always a 1, 2, 3. So from that move, from that bounce off of the 162.15, you had the first wave up. Now you're going to have wave 2, which is a pullback. Now, since it's in the early stages of like kind of finding its core, wave 2s normally pull back 50 to 80%. So you can expect this to go back at least half of the last move, which is 162.82, which is where we're at right now. And then its maximum would be breaking that next cluster of 162.32. If it breaks that cluster, and there's no limit orders there that were set by people who are trying to make this pump, the market makers will then slide it all the way back down to where they need it to be, which is 159.97. Because the further they can get down and the greedier the entry, they know by pushing that back up to 164, that's the next percentage of wins, right? So if they can get this to actually go down to 160 and then run it back up to 164, you're looking at a 2.5-3% move. Plus they have all the momentum coming in, which is what your uncle's talking about. And then from that level, because what you really need to do here is you can go from your, what are you estimating, 171?
Yeah. I mean, depending on different Fibonacci, I mean, I'll say 170 is safe.
Right. So
I mean, we go all the way to 174, but
yeah. So go to 170, and then as you look down, if we kind of scale that down, we want to see about a 10% move minimum, right? So if we scale that down and we go down to 10% move, let's see, and that'll give us an idea of what they're looking at, right? Because they need 10% just to even get in the game. Oh, my PC's so slow on this network.